Hey everybody, welcome back to the tavern. I'm your wonderful host and barkeep for the evening, and tonight we have another guest and another story to tell. So before we start, of course, you can always come to the tavern and tell a story, and tonight's guest is Arclight Court. And, part of me should have asked if there's an actual name besides that he wants me to talk to him about but that's the one I'm going with at the moment. So we've been speaking for a while. He's got some new projects coming up, and I'm going to give him a couple seconds here just to kind of fill us in on a quick blip before we start our adventure. But table is yours.
Hello, everybody. I am Will. I'm the lore keeper at Arclight Court, or Arclight Court Games, known across the internet as Arclight Court because that's my favorite name, and that's why I named the business that. I have a new tabletop role-playing game that's coming out this year. The starter kit is currently in GoFundMe in order to raise the money to get it out there for everybody digitally and physically. And I am featured across a lot of different streams with a lot of different people, and I'm super excited to be here with Tabletop Misfits and tell a story.
Awesome. Well, Will, I'm excited to find out what character you bring to the table, what kind of emotional connection we can find between the two characters, and let's get started, shall we? So for new players, remind everybody of this. This is a two-part series that we run every week with new guests, and the first part of this adventure has nothing to do with me as the tavern keeper. It's going to stay in your world. It's going to be, I want you to describe a place where you're going to be without giving me any hint or idea of what character you're bringing. So where are we starting in this adventure?
We're starting in a small, military barracks room, right, on the floating city of Lirock.
And what kind of city is this? A very military town, or are you just starting in the barracks here?
It is a very military-backed city.
Okay.
It is much larger than the normal towns or villages that you would find Terran-bound to the rest of the world.
All right. And why are we here?
We're here because the Twilight Riders have announced that they have conducted their final flight. Okay. And there are a handful of these Twilight Riders who are celebrating with other members of the city, family members, friends, as they retire their griffin wings and their armor.
All right. So we have a ceremony going on, a retirement of these majestic creatures that have been through hell and high water and are now time to give them rest. Now, your character, without giving us any description whatsoever, what's going on with him, her, whoever we're working with?
He is standing close near what looks to be a small family of four, including himself, wearing a similar outfit to one of the riders who are retiring.
Okay. So the way the story works, the next door you go through, we'll find out what happens. So you lead the story until you open the door.
That would be fairly quickly from this moment, as Sin takes a few careful and calculated steps further away from his family and his brother, making sure no one's paying as much attention to him as they would be his eldest, and tries to make his way out of this celebration and get away from the attention.
Okay. So where would he be dipping off to?
He would be leaving to head towards the actual Griffin sanctuary, where they are resting, or the ones who are having their armor removed for the final time and getting the full cleaning and cleansing of their feathers and furs. That's where he would be heading.
Okay. And I'm curious because I'm kind of trying to get this imagery of how he'd be coming into the tavern. Is he going to turn around and kind of, once he's out of sight, jet to this place, or is this going to be kind of this back step slowly? What are we thinking?
Once Sin is aware that there is no attention on him, it's an immediate jet. It's immediate, right through the door. No one's paying. No one would be any the wiser of me being here or not being here.
Okay. So as soon as you get away from the crowd, you notice that nobody's got an eye on you. You turn around, you dart towards the sanctuary, and as you throw open the door, you are not greeted by the sanctuary. Instead, you are greeted by very heavy wooden floors, a stone-walled room, these random, almost like magically floating lanterns just kind of hover at about 6.5 feet high, and a large oak bar sits at the back. And the first thing that catches everyone's eye as they walk into the tavern, it says, "Welcome to the Mythweaver's Respite. Everything costs a tale. Everything is worth a story." And as you look around, kind of startled at the moment, because this isn't where you were expecting to end up.
Not even in the slightest.
Exactly. Not to mention, you're in a flying city or a flying area above the world, and there should be no way that this would just randomly be here. But as you kind of catch your bearing for a moment, you hear the clattering and crashing of pots and pans in the back.
Nobody else within.
There's not a single soul. There are 8 tables, all made up as if guests could arrive. Even the silverware, the dinnerware, the plates, they're all set properly. The bar is immaculate. The stools, the velvet seating on all of the stools seem to never ever been damaged. All you hear is that crashing in the back.
I think almost instinctually, in the fear of not being where I once was and not being aware of where I am, Sin will move the front covering of the military style jacket that he's wearing and pulls what looks to be a gemstoned dragon claw gauntlet, and pulls it over his hand, and then draws a rapier from the other side.
All right. So, as this always happens, as the clanging stops, you hear a very guttural grunt come from the back room, and these 2 swaying doors fly open as an oversized dwarven man kind of steps out in very traditional tavern garb, and he goes, "Oh, my apologies. Didn't know we had company. You, sir, I don't believe you need to do anything with that. I'd hate for anything messy to happen, and in my opinion, I don't want to hurt you. and I'm sure you don't want to hurt me.
Not in the slightest, sir. Not in the slightest.
I apologize for the noise. I was cooking in the back and dropped a pan on my foot, and my hands open and things scattered. I cleaned it up, and now I see why I slipped. It seems that somebody else has come to tell their tale. So sit down. Have a drink.
Replaces the rapier back into the sheath, keeps the clawed gauntlet glove on, and moves to take a seat and says, I don't believe I'm old enough to have other drinks, but water would be perfectly fine.
Oh, you're a youngin'. It's been many, many years since I've seen a youngin' pop in a tavern. Not to be offensive in any way, shape, or form, but normally tales don't come from someone so young. This is an interesting and a very surprising moment indeed. And he turns around, kind of grabs a glass, spins as if there was something there, and as he does, you watch the water just fill up in the cup, and as he slides it over to you.
Sin will take the glass, move it in front of him, and then take a small leather pocketbook out and write out the movements, the glass itself, trying to track what kind of magic was done, how the glass had filled itself in a turn and a swing kind of motion. More research, more investigation needed, kind of noted inside it, and closes the book, goes to grab the glass, and I trust we'll start drinking the water.
It's crystal ice cold. It drops all the way, and you can feel it like it's the first type of the first drink you have in the morning, where you haven't been drinking anything all day, and it's very refreshing.
Water isn't well. The fresh water like this isn't normal at home. It's normally just pulled from the clouds, and you have to clean a lot out of it, and it takes a lot of steps.
Sounds like a pain, in all honesty.
It can be.
So, I apologize. I'm the barkeep here, and most people don't just show up. There's a reason you've come here. You've seemed to be a little skittish. First time I've seen somebody after dropping a pan, they draw a blade. No judgment, of course. A little wet behind the ears. But curious, what brings you to this tavern? This only shows up when you have a tale to tell.
I believe I have one, at least. My name is Sin Feanor. I am the second son of a blade singer general in the city of Lyrock. My mother, a griffin rider. My older brother, a griffin rider and blade singer. Become general of a Twilight Brigade, protectors of the city. And I too thoroughly invested in my family's magic. I found what I later learned to be my grandfather's spellbook and his arcane focus. He'll raise the dragon clawed gauntlet and found myself swapping places with my own brother. But for my brother, this became a deep slumber, and for me, became the greatest adventure of my life.
So far.
So far.
As I said, you've got much more years ahead of you than you do behind you. Those adventures have just begun, and yet you've already become so much.
Learned more about my brother than he ever would have told. I learned the secrets of our family and why our great nation stays to the air. I watched dragons sing songs to people when we were told that they were great monsters. I spoke with giants who built grand castles for kings and lords when we were shown images of them destroying the world. I learned that this great magic that I share with my father and with my brother is not as locked away and legacied to the next. I taught a human how to blade sing.
You've done a lot in a very short amount of life.
For this body, yes.
You mentioned that.
I was 9 years old. Very young for an elf to swap places with my brother.
I have to ask, though, when you say swap places, what do you mean?
I mean that I lived a life in a body that wasn't my own, but I knew the body. Our spirits, our beings reached a frequency through the blade song that allowed them to harmonically swap. And for my brother, who had much more magical prowess and experience than the body he was entering was capable of, the body fell into a long slumber.
Let me get this, make sure I've got all of my strings tied properly. You, the person I'm speaking with, this is not your original body.
This is my original body, yes.
Your original body. And the person inside it is not the original.
No, I have returned back to my original body.
Okay.
The body that I led the Twilight Brigade. The body who taught a human to blade sing. The body who listened to dragons sing and giants build castles.
You did this 9 years.
I did this over the course of 20 years.
And yet you can't have a drink.
It doesn't feel right. Like that this body hasn't earned that. Has it lived that long?
You are much older. This is fresher.
Yes.
Makes more sense now. Pieces together why you show up here. A 9-year-old showing up here would be very strange to see at a bar or tavern of any sort.
Any 9-year-old appearing at a bar would be strange.
Especially without anybody else. Thinks we'd have bigger issues. But a 9-year-old with a mind like yours. See, it's interesting. And it makes more sense now. And I was really confused why my door would show up near you. My tavern doesn't see you as a 9-year-old. It sees you for all your experience that you have.
I'm glad that it can see the experience within me. Because for everyone else, that experience will be held with my brother's name and my brother's visage.
So you have to hide your true identity in order to keep yourself safe.
And the sanctity of all of the good that I did in my brother's name.
You don't think that would be something that people need to know about? The fact that they've been brainwashed to think that dragons were monsters and that giants were destroyers?
In the same strange way a 9-year-old appearing within a tavern would be, having a 9-year-old tell an entire civilization that their history has been a lie, I think would be just as baffling without a parent. And unfortunately, mine played a part in keeping that history told.
Well, Sin, there are many things in this life that you'll learn, that you've already learned. One of them is that you need to know who you are, and that people need to know who you are. Hiding behind your body is not something that you'll be able to do probably forever.
I hope that I dream that I can create a way to be seen for all that I have accomplished and that I have done without taking away the looks that my parents gave my brother today before we swapped back, without taking away the accolades and celebrations that my brother deserves, having been forced to slumber for so long in a body not their own. Without taking that away from him.
A large burden, one that most don't even need to carry. But for you, you're carrying it well.
It's an attempt.
From a very old soul to another, don't lose yourself in this fully yet. Mostly, as time goes on, I have a feeling that you'll be able to tell these tales. That these tales will come out to a place with the people that need to hear them. But for now, you're right. This is probably your best option. However, that tale does earn something. It earns another drink. And he taps his finger on your drink, and your water refills.
Taps glass and instantly refills. More later. Closes the book again, sets it back into the pocket. I believe that there are advancements that can be made. I believe that there are things that can be taught that don't have to be heard. I believe there are things that can be shown without forcing the eyes open. I hope to maybe take some of those from home down to the Terralock to see the world that we were told was destroyed never truly was.
And you have to ask yourself, if the world you know was ever destroyed, then why are people being told it was?
My family had always said, and it'll be at this time that he does now remove the gauntlet. My family has always said that blade singing was an elven art, that no others could learn this. This was a sacred thing. We're told that our grandfather led the elven blade singers against the dragons to protect Tylock and help raise it from Terra so that it wouldn't be destroyed like the rest of the world. That blade singing helped save all of these people. But in doing so, a lot of the teachings that were left, a lot of the history of the world before then, we no longer had access to. And everything was left to the word of mouth of a man, of an elven man who led soldiers against a dragon to protect a city. I believe that my grandfather was lied to, and that his lie, the lie that was told to him, forced him to lie to those around him. And then those around him continued that lie until it became the truth.
And I leave this with you. Two things. First, so you need to forgive yourself for what happened to your brother. It's a long road, and maybe one day you'll see him again, and he'll wake from his slumber. Second thing, so you need to be true to yourself. If you believe that these lies need to be told, you need to find a way to get it out there. But enough about that. Time here in this tavern is slim. And as an old man, I've heard tales from worlds of unknown. Seems every time somebody comes through here, I learn a little bit. Even by a youngin' like myself. I'm going to ask you something. Would you like to embody this tale? Place it somewhere where it'll never be forgotten.
Yes.
Reaches underneath his table, underneath the bar, pulls out a small chest. It's strange. It's lined in wood, but there's other elements within it that are holding it together that don't seem natural. And he opens the chest, and you can see bobs and trinkets and things like that. All I ask is that you give the tavern back something. And he turns the box around and slides it towards you.
Sin will take the Twilight Brigade's emblem off of the military coat that he's wearing, unpin it, and then place it within the box.
The box. And as he does, a bit of a shimmer kind of comes over for just a moment as the box is closed, and he slides it back under the bar. It is my word as the tavern keeper, the host of this tavern, to take the tales of all who need to share these stories and hold them dear to this place. And yours will be one of those many that have been told here. Now, it seems you have a lot to decide on and a lot of opinions that you need to get past. But I think you've got it. And hopefully, when the right time comes, you think about a very strange dwarven man that you met in a very strange place. And it'll get you to think a little differently.
Sin will move the opposite hand from the one that had the gauntlet on it over his face. A small disguised self, but only over half of the face, showing a older, not by much, at least from physicality, singular scar down the far end of the eye, version of his brother, Cor. And if I appear like this, then the story's still being written.
Very nice to meet you, son. If you ever have another tale that you need to tell, it needs to be planted in the world of all. Just open a door, and if it's true, maybe I'll come back.
Finishes the water, picks up the gauntlet, puts it back underneath the jacket, turns to head towards the door. Before he does, he will turn back to the tavern keeper and say, I might even send a friend. And he'll close his hands in front of him and then fold them open like opening a book. And standing on his open palms is like a very tiny hairless cat, but with large bulbous black eyes that look very disproportionate to the body of this small hairless cat.
One of those. I feel like I'm looking at one of those like birthday cards at Walmart, like just the giant eyes.
Yep, and a pair of still the same like hairless cat flesh, but you can see there looks to be almost like scale lines on it. Pair of wings coming out at the back of it. And he says, Ongo, they know the truth. And if we need to finish telling the story, just find a door. And the little familiar will kind of like move to some kind of military, like standing or like half parade rest, half attention, like goes to salute, realizes he's not wearing a hat, makes a hat appear on his head, and then salutes. But then we'll place Ongo onto his shoulder and head to leave.
And as you do, you catch glimpse in the rocks as you're walking out of thousands of tales written in beautiful calligraphic writing. And right about the time you step to that final step before you hit the threshold of the doorway, you see on your left side, your tale has already been written into the stones. As you walk out, closing the door behind you, placing yourself just outside the sanctuary of the Griffin's resting place, the door closes, the scene drops, curtains called, and the adventure leads on once again. Thank you.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
All right. Great story. Lots of interest. Such an awesome way to start a character. Hoping everybody's continuing to enjoy these. Please, if this is something that you really enjoy, let me know in the channel, on social media, or come enjoy it with us every Wednesday. But now we get to kind of dive behind the scene. This is also the same time where you can ask questions for both the character and the player. And this is where the chat's opened. Everybody can ask questions. Let's find out where this knowledge, this insight, this information and ingenuity comes from. So we're going to step away from Sin and we're going to dive into the mind of Will.
Oh, yeah.
What was the one thing I love to ask, and I ask everybody that joins here, is like, what was the start of this for you? What's the pow factor that got you involved into something like TTRPGs?
My father's best friend from high school grew up, that was my uncle.
Nice.
The entire life kind of thing. His father was a pastor who was a grandfather to me most of my life. When I was about 9 years old, I went over to Pastor Roy's house and he was playing 2nd edition Dungeons and Dragons with a bunch of other men who were in their 30s and 40s. And I heard everything that they were talking about, and I was like, that's everything I love. I want to do this. What is this? Let me be a part of this. And so Pastor Roy told me, if this is what you want to do, if you want to be a part of this, I will show you how to make a character. I'm not going to make it for you. If you want to do this, you'll join in the game that we're playing in already.
Yep.
But no one is going to help you. No one's going to look at your sheet and tell you if you're doing something right or wrong. Your actions will be your actions. Your consequences will be your consequences. And that is where Rokai Duskluck, the half-elf rogue, who kept 12 10-foot poles on him at all points of time.
Hey, so for people who have never played 2nd or 1st edition, if you look in 3rd, 4th, and 5th edition in the general store, there are a bunch of random items that people were like, why would you buy these? This is the reason, because in 1st and 2nd edition, they were useful as all get up for any sort of thing.
Nobody wants a bell or ball bearings or a flask of lantern oil. When you played 1st or 2nd edition, you wanted all of those things and you needed to have them.
Right. And the downfall was in 1st and 2nd edition, a lot of times, this was back in the day where people didn't ignore things like encumbrance and things like that. So not only were you having to get all these random bobs and bottles and sticks and all sorts of craziness, you also had to then realize that, now I can't move very fast either because I have too much. And you're also not the guy who's carrying around 3 pieces of armor. It's just not going to happen.
And if you were carrying too much, there's no way you were getting any of the loot at the end of the dungeon either. Or you were dropping a bunch of stuff there for the next group.
Just leaving
taking what
the
you
trail.
can.
No, it's true though. I mean, and I was luxury, and I had the luck enough to play like the end of second edition with a group of people from my hometown. Thankfully, to the fact that I was in right outside of a college town, and it wasn't really the fact that it was a college town, but it was the fact that it was a college town where there was a giant area where you could play this kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's
and it was the student center there, right? And my first introduction to D&D, and I know I've told this a lot of times on the tavern, but it's very similar to yours, only mine was not with friend, like mine was with one friend who was 5 years older than I was at the time, and he was still him and I were the youngest people. Everybody else was in their 30s and above, and I dropped into a game that had 12 people playing, and I'm like, what do I do? And our DM, our game master at the time, this was before PDFs and all that stuff. So he's literally carrying 2 full suitcases of his material with him, along with another suitcase of books. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is ridiculous. And he unrolled this massive map out of this is his world, and it's twice the size of the of Earth. And I'm like, who has time for this? Like,
who does this?
I don't understand it. And then it hit me, and it was like every fantasy novel I had read, every movie I had watched, everything I had written in the past. I'm like, this is all like, I can put it all together and it makes sense.
And have other people experience it too.
Right. It's definitely the case though. And it's great to hear that similar mentality kind of is how a lot of us kind of grew up into the D&D realm. I think it's much simpler, much more friendly to join Dungeons and Dragons nowadays. It's not, here's a character sheet, figure it out.
Here's where you can find your races. Here's where you can find your classes. Here's your equipment. By the way, everybody else is level 12. You're level 2. Have fun.
Yeah, have fun.
No.
Hopefully your entire party is like, oh, you're level 2. Okay, we're gonna kind of protect the baby of the picture.
We got you.
We
built a Bjorn just for this.
Yeah. So, but no, you're right, and it's one of those things where it's so funny to think about that we've been through these levels of gameplay, and now we're to the point where like I can literally build a character on D Beyond without any knowledge whatsoever of what I've done. And this was also back in the day.
You don't even have to do it. You could just hit the make me a character button.
Me a level 1 character. Boop.
And it's done.
Yeah. But no, and a lot of times, and this is something that I still to this day will do in some cases. If you're a brand new player, and I don't like to encourage this, but at the same time, it has helped new players for me so many different times that I kind of encourage it in my own small knit group. It's not for everybody, so don't think I'm telling everybody to do this. Give them the player's handbook, and that's it. Don't let them dive into 60,000 books for their first character. It's overwhelming for a lot of people, and it's very intimidating because they're like, oh God, I have to figure out
what out of
this
900 options fits the option I was going for.
I want to play a fighter. Well, now there's 19 versions of it. Which one do you want?
Yeah.
No. Here, do you want to be the fighter that likes to do cool things? Do you want to be the fighter that likes to hit stuff hard? Which one do you want? Those are 2 options you get for the first character.
I do a similar thing, but more so my mother-in-law, bless her heart, I got my nieces and nephews to play. My wife plays alongside me. Most of my brothers and sisters all play together with us. My mother-in-law got really interested, and she wanted to give it a try. Instead of handing her the player's handbook or anything, I said, if you, from listening to all the stories we've played, all the games we've been in, what kind of character would you want to be? She's like, well, I want to be like a rogue. I want to be a fairy, but I want to be like sneaky in the shadows, like throw magic or throw a knife at somebody. Cool. Made her a fairy, rogue, arcane trickster.
Yep.
Gave her magic initiate for Eldritch Blast. Here you go. This does all of the things that you wanted to do.
Yep.
And here's a little cheat sheet. If I say you have a bonus action, action, and movement, here's all the things you could do with your bonus action. Here's all the things you could do with your action. Here's how far you can move. That's all you
need. Let's play.
And she had a blast.
That's awesome.
So, I love that.
That's a perfectly good way of doing it. And it breaks it down. It makes it easier because you and I and many people in the D&D community and TTRPGs in general, we know a large, vast amount of what's going on. And it's like, oh, I want to play. Well, I've heard this and I thought about this and maybe I want to do this. Okay, I can come up with a class that gets close to that, and I can come up with a race that gets close to this.
I can get you as close as possible to this combination. Everything from here is just flavor.
Right, exactly. I did have one player, though, that I always asked them, I said, I don't usually tell people no. But if it starts getting ridiculous, like I'm the GM that I'm like, hold up. We wanted a vampiric fae necromancer. It was like, first off, if you don't understand the fae at all, and you don't understand a vampire at all, these are gonna be two very clashy things that you don't want to deal with. And
it's gonna be very bad for you.
Yes.
You're not going to enjoy this character because there are curses. There are things involved with this.
Yeah.
There are certain activities.
Yeah. I was like, are you really sure? Yeah. And I understand it. It was coming from the whole, little pixie goth. I'm going to say goth, but it was little, like dark pixie figurines and stuff. Like that's what she wanted to play. And I was like, first off, you're this big. You run around with a scythe that's this big. Like you're fighting toothpicks here. Like I'm not sure this is really what you want. And
it's not going to do what you're asking.
Yeah.
One of my consistent players, one of my brothers, he is that person, but I love him so much. There's a big saying throughout my entire family. I'm the forever DM of the family. Yeah. I give so much, I ask for so little.
Right.
Any race, class, combination you want to do, 90% of the time, I'm like, sure, let's go for it. Give me a meaningful backstory.
Yep.
Give me an explanation for how this combination works.
Give me my why.
We can do it.
And we can figure this out.
The one consistent no that has come that I have had with my brother is an anthropomorphic horse-drawn cart. That's a warlock named Cardi McSteam.
Horse.
He has headlights that he uses for his Eldritch Blast, but every time he uses it, it pushes him backwards, and he needs to have horses attached to the front to pull him right back to the position he was in when he first I was like, no, this is not happening.
No.
But all the organs are underneath the leather tarp. I was like, yeah, this is getting horrifying now. No, it's not happening.
Like, why are we going down this road? Like,
I want to be Lightning McQueen in Barovia. I was like, that's the worst combination you could have come together.
First off, if you got to go up a mountain, you're screwed. Like, plain up.
Slight inclines, small rocks.
yeah, you're in trouble. No matter what. Oh my goodness. Like everybody has that one though, right?
I love him though. He's the same one who
they come up with the most crazy ideas though at the same time during the story. You're like,
he also
think about that.
We were playing in a campaign that his cousin was DMing. It's a very short run campaign. Very bad scenario with that whole situation, but his character and all of us who played in that game trauma bonded to such a deep level that we would go into combat scenarios and not have to have any metagame over the table conversations. We knew exactly where everybody was going to position themselves and how they were going to respond and what they were going to do. When we would interact with certain NPCs, without having to have any of those metagame conversations. No, I think Oro's the right person for you to speak with and have the barbarian step forward. Or you seem pretty shady. We've got a shadow monk assassin over here that might be a better fit for you to have this conversation with. And became so cohesive within the team that afterwards, when you approach me with an anthropomorphic cart and Curse of Strahd, and I have to tell you no, like I want to say yes. There is a part of me that does want to say yes.
Well, part of me wants to see where this is going to go, but there's another part of me that's just like,
absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've got our question for the night from one of our people in the chat. Awesome. Is there any TTRPGs you've wanted to play but never had the time or group for?
Ooh. As a indie TTRPG game designer, I have so many projects that are like locked away in chests and boxes and behind NDAs that I'm like, I want people to play this game. But of like official out there kind of
not stuff that's in here, but stuff that's like out there.
I've always been super intrigued with the crunchiness and the superhero shenanigans of Mutants and Masterminds.
I've never played it. I've heard a ton about it. It looks super fun.
I'm so in. I've wanted to get into that forever.
I'm a superhero like nut too, so it definitely rolls back into the.
And then the new Blackbirds TTRPG that came out. It uses the Zweihander system. Okay. They went through Kickstarter roughly around the same time that Critical Role funded their animated series, and they got fully funded in the same amount of time that the Critical Role animated series got fully funded, which was outrageous. But it's think D&D meets Diablo kind of thought process. The world's been taken over by the 12 demon lords. You're the survivors or the last standing regiment, but none of the characters are intrinsically good. Nobody is a hero. Everybody has something that they're out for, kind of thing. And that's super intriguing for me.
Definitely.
Oh, love it.
For me personally, I've got 3 right now that are kind of on my docket of these are things I want to play in the near future. The first is sitting here still, and I'm gonna shun one of our players because this was a promise that we were gonna run this, and then he got sick to be able to run it. So Avatar is a project that will be coming on the Misfit stream one day. Not giving any dates or times yet. We're still trying to figure things out. Our wonderful friend and one of the big misfits of the group, Phil, was supposed to be our game master for that one, but he picked up a new job and new life. Things were happening, and he said, "I got to step away for a couple minutes." So that's on the hold, but that I'm super excited about. I'm not even unwrapping it until I know I'm playing it because I'm just like. Because I know if I dive into it, it's going to be game over.
Have you played Masks?
I haven't.
No? Oh.
No.
Masks and Avatar character setup, very, very similar, but different enough that you get superhero on this side and Avatar on this side.
Right.
It's so good.
Other 2 that I've been kind of hoping to get into, the one you're running right now, I'm super sad that I did not even get an invite to come run in. I want to play the Power Rangers one so bad. I'm a super Power Rangers fan. I've been a fan since the original. And
we may be in contact.
I'm super down.
Because there's some other Rangers who are supposed to be making continued appearances after their guest appearance in the series.
Yeah.
So we might definitely
I
add
would be super down to at least a one shot to play it. Yes, JDF. But there's a couple of them. Like I don't know if anybody's watched the new Power Rangers show, the movie on Netflix. It hit home very heavily for me. I felt the feels very deeply. He's trying to show something.
I've got the Green Ranger helmet, White Ranger helmet, the Zeo Megazord. I've got Saba right here behind my head. My dad had auditioned to be the Green Ranger alongside Jason David Frank.
Oh wow!
In the 90s, and they went with Jason David Frank to the next stage and didn't have my dad move forward because my dad could do all the flips but didn't know any martial arts. Jason David Frank knew martial arts, couldn't do the flips at the time. They told my dad it's easier to teach somebody how to do a backflip than to go over hours of choreography with somebody.
Right, for a martial arts choreography. Yeah, I would
2-minute scene.
Yeah, and not to mention, and this is a spoiler that I found out way later in life, and I'm glad that I found it out way later in life, is that most of the time when they're in their uniform, they're not even Americans.
Nope.
It's choreography based off of the original Sentai,
or it's
Japan,
full-blown screen grabs from the original series and threw it over there.
Yeah, they didn't even try. That was something I found out later in life, and I was like, I'm so glad when I was a kid I didn't find that out because I thought it was super cool. But yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then there was a third one, and I had it on the top of my head, and I can't think of what it was.
We had Avatar, Power Rangers.
Avatar, Power Rangers. I mean, there's a few others, not just like those. Like, in all honesty, I want to try the new, and I know this is going to say it's going to be really kind of cringy, but I want to try the new Pathfinder 2 in 2nd edition. I liked Pathfinder 1st edition for a little bit, but it was a lot of fun. Blades in the Dark is another one I want to try because I like the whole heist scene thing. I think it's pretty neat.
Oh yeah.
And there's one that was literally on the tip of my tongue, and I can't think of what it was.
Turn the page. Oh, that's the.
It was one of the series on Netflix when they released their TTRPG for the Dragon Prince.
Yes.
I saw it, I got super excited about it, and then I forgot about it, and it was like, no.
Yes.
But I love the series. Like, I fell in love with that series. I thought personally, and this is not to down any other TTRPG-esque series whatsoever, I thought the Dragon Prince hit all of the markers that it needed to hit to be an amazing TTRPG series.
Yes.
And
even without having a TTRPG.
Exactly. Because it's different when it's like Critical Role where they built that and then they said, let's make the show. No, they built the show, and then I was like, I want to play here. This is what I want to do.
Oh yeah. But yeah. Darren Orion, good friend from the Initiative Order. He's one of the voice actors for Dragon Prince.
Nice.
And they ran, I do believe they ran a couple community games where they played their character.
That's cool.
Working alongside the rest of the players as they were trying to go through everything. Oh, it was amazing.
Awesome. Yeah, so those are the three. In all honesty, those are the three. If I have time, because I run games at Gen Con every year, if I have time, those are the three games I'm hunting out, because I'm like, these are the three games I want to try out and I want to play. So if you're in the area and you're going to play and you're running games from there, let me know, and I'll probably try to jump on the game. Because those are my three excitement ones. And this year I've stepped down a little bit because I do a lot for people who have been a part of the community for a while, I do a lot of work with Gooey Cube, who's a TTRPG third party supplement. But so every Gen Con I go and I'm running 4 games for them this year, which is a little less than I did last year. But that frees up some time. So I'm hoping I get into other games that I can start trying out. And I missed the Power Rangers one last year. They even gave me I have the free PDF from it and everything. I downloaded, I read it, I was like, this is awesome. And then it didn't have a chance to play it yet. So, but yeah.
I love Power Rangers.
We had an amazing talk. I hate to say that we're almost the bar is almost closed. But one thing I forgot to do, and I don't want to forget to do this, is I want to give you a moment to at least share some of the projects you're working on specifically, so that people can see what's going on with you.
Absolutely, yes. So like I said at the intro, I am Will. I am the lore keeper for Arclight Court. We are a content creating intellectual storytellers who are striving to tell and create the best possible stories that we can with all of the players involved and the people who enter the Arclight Court. Arclight Court Games is officially now a thing, LLC'd, whole thing across the board.
Excellent.
And the first thing that we are releasing is the starter kit for a brand new TTRPG called Magi, Veil of Mana. This uses an entirely brand new dice mechanic that I could not believe has never been used or attempted within tabletop role-playing games after I researched it. So I'm super excited to unveil that once the starter kit gets its funding. A fully classless character building system as well, that a handful of other TTRPGs do, but this is less of a copy paste. Oh, you were a soldier at one point in time, cool, these are the skills you have. Oh, you were a painter, these are the skills you have. This is more free form, free flowing character design to give players more agency over the skills and decisions and choices that they're making with their character, without being locked into, I'm a warlock, but I really started to like a bunch of the stuff the monk is doing, but I don't want to put all of my warlock stuff on hold to start trying to learn monk stuff. No, you spend time with another player at the table who has that skill or has that ability. They can teach you that skill or that ability, and you can add it to your own growing repertoire. Downside, this is a like dark high fantasy, dark historical fantasy, dark modern fantasy, in that there are two organizations, one who is doing their absolute best to protect you, and one that is doing their absolute most to remove your magic from your being. If that means your being no longer exists afterwards, that just makes cleanup easier for them. Kind of scenarios.
Little dark.
Oh yeah.
Not your. We're not playing this with your 12-year, with your 6-year-old. It's not happening.
Oh no. Last Witch Hunter meets I Am Number 4 meets Call of Cthulhu kind of thing. Super excited for that. Again, we've got the GoFundMe is in chat. Thank you so much. Once it is fully funded, we'll start sending out all of the information for those who donate. If you donate more than $20, you get the digital version of the starter kit completely for free. Or you can choose to donate it to Arclight Court Games, and we will send it over to youth groups, TTRPG charity groups, and drives and things of that nature, with a note from yourself and from Arclight Court Games to help spread the game, spread health awareness, awesome. Whatever things that people are raising money for, and using TTRPGs to do so.
Yep.
Last thing I'll plug, because I always get super wrapped up in MVOM, is Arcanites, the Power Rangers actual play series that I do over on the Initiative Order, every second and fourth Monday, and that's calendar-wise, not rotating weekly.
Right.
I am the game master for a Power Rangers homebrew world that takes place in Angel Grove, with a whole new slew of rangers who are under the mentorship currently of the original Blue Ranger, who gave up his powers to protect the new Rangers when they were being attacked. And it's gone so many wonderful ways. Our Red Ranger believes
he pulled the script from the movie that just came out on Netflix.
Our Red Ranger thinks or believes that they're descended from King Arthur. Our Black Ranger has the soul essence of Zordon after he was sacrificed. Spoilers. Our Pink Ranger is looking for a lost poet who might be an elven king masquerading with humanity. Our Green Ranger is the nephew of Tommy Oliver, who's just now found out that his uncle was a career Power Ranger. And he shares a color with his uncle, and he's going through that whole internal conflict. It's great. It's amazing. Would love to have all of you guys join us here, and hopefully maybe get our Tavern Keeper to make an appearance there in the future if possible.
I might actually even find a costume if I can, or something like that. I'm diving in real quick to kind of put faces to the characters real quick, so I know who's playing what and their personalities and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's great. It's one thing to be like a super big fan of Power Rangers and always imagine yourself as I would be like the Green Ranger, or I'd be the Gold Ranger, to get to create an entire team of Rangers, their Zords, their weapons, and have people be like, oh, I'll absolutely be that Ranger and tell that story with you. I was like,
yeah.
Oh, the feels of that moment could not be taught.
So before we go, I just want to kind of get the grasp of this. So you created the entire story with the Rangers themselves, and they just handpicked?
So I went through the Ranger spectrum colors and said, okay, Red Ranger, if they pick the Red Ranger, I have 3 Zord options that they could choose from for that.
Okay.
If they pick the Black Ranger, I got 3 Zord options for that.
Yeah.
I didn't force anybody to pick a color. Everything else outside of that was all their choice. Their character names, their backgrounds, backstories, all their own. But the powers that they got from the morphing grid, their mentor, the Zords, all that kind of stuff was initially all already pre-built. And then I was like, these are the flavors of ice cream I have. If you don't like them, I can make another one. And they're like, no, I like that one, and I like that one.
Take that one, and that one, and that one. No, that's awesome. So yeah, big fan and supporter of the Initiative Order. Big fan and supporter of Arclight Court. Definitely go check out both of them. If you can and you have the ability to support, let's get this GoFundMe taken care of so they can we can have another RPG to try out and find time for. I say that because there's so many of them, but I do believe that each one has its own special essence and ability to reach new people. So that's what we're going to continue to strive for. Thanks once again, Will, for coming on.
Absolutely.
I'm going to do a little bit of fangirling here for a moment and say that I was blown away when you messaged me and you were like, I've been following you since you started the tavern and I love every episode. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, dude. He's like, you have a great setup. So if you are enjoying that and this is something that you really are enjoying, please share this with your friends, family, and your team, because the only way we're going to get to be known is by other people talking about us, because I am horrible at trying to translate this to social media. Right. Sadly, it's just not me.
Dope monk shit there in chat. That's actually one of my brothers right there.
Awesome.
So he's definitely got it being thrown all over the place right now as we're speaking.
I appreciate that. Of course, I am the Tavern Keeper and the currently the GM for Tabletop Misfits. Our newest project coming out here in the next couple months is going to be the Red Star Rising, first chapter from GUI Q. That's going to be ran by our very own Matt, who played a couple of the different characters throughout our series or throughout our shows. I'm going to be stepping back and playing a player for a couple months just so that I can concentrate on some real life stuff. But I'll be back, of course, in the next few months. And of course, you can always find me here on the Tavern every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we'll be creating characters each and every week with new guests as they tell their story from their world. And we can kind of get a little bit of a glimpse on the inspiration and the insight behind those characters. And of course, you as the audience are always have the option to place questions and stuff for us to answer during that show. Last but not least, if you want to support us, there's multiple ways you can do that. You can go over to our social medias and give us a follow. You can throw us a subscribe over here on Twitch. But if you really want to support the Tavern specifically, and you want to have the potential of playing with some of these characters, we are putting up any character that is crafted for the Tavern over on our Patreon for a little low price of $3 a month. And what that does is that helps us fund our artist, and it helps us continue to create characters for you to bring into your own RPGs and have a little bit of a backstory on those characters because you're getting them from the stories of the guests themselves. And with that, the tavern is closed, the doors are shut, the lanterns are dim, and we'll see you guys all next week for another exciting adventure and storytelling over here at Tabletop Misfits. Have a good night.